Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to today's conversation on Gift of Healing TV. I am delighted to be joined by my new co-hosts in the plural. We've got David, who was on the program as a guest a few weeks ago and who's now joined us permanently. So David, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah, for the. I'm really looking forward to it.
Excellent. Oh, let's hope you don't keep breaking up like that. I hope we've got your better connection coming soon. And my other co-host, who's been with me for a few weeks now, and that's Patricia. Patricia, thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's fabulous to be here, Sarah. I always enjoy these times together. We have good crack, as we say in Ireland, and that's very important. So lovely to share the platform with you. Just fab. Thank you.
And our topic for tonight is reboot your cells and upgrade your life with the power of sound. So Patricia, as Joanne is your guest, why don't you introduce Joanne to us?
Okay, well, thank you. I will. She's not just my guest. She's a real soul friend. And I've had the honor, the privilege of knowing her now for, 10 years, 12 years.
I think so.
Yeah. And I've been over to visit her in Baltimore, and she's been over here. Well, it was Scotland she came to. And we got together, and we've got so much in common with the wonderful work that she's doing. And yeah, we're similar, but unique, of course. But we just get on, and I know that she's got lots of lovely inspirations to share with us all tonight. So I'm excited for it all. And I'm welcome to David as well. It's lovely to see you here. And thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
And Joanne, it's a real pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. This will be fun, I know. And Patricia, I just have to make one little comment. Over here in the States, we could never say something is good crack. That has a completely different meaning over here.
Okay, too much information. Okay.
So I thought that was funny. I just had to start with something light.
All right.
But thank you for thinking of me and having me on. I feel like I'm talking with all my soul friends in sound.
Yeah,
because we're all experienced.
Yes,
and it's great that we started with the sound of laughter.
Exactly,
because it's one of the sounds that is so missing in so many people's lives,
and it's the highest vibration. You know, the masters say that when you laugh, that just takes you up into such a high vibration. So I make sure that in anything I do, there's always some joking and laughter in there to get everybody kind of pumped up and lifted.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, we're ready to be pumped up and lifted.
Are you ready? So would you like me just to start with a bit of my background? I know this is a conversation, but you probably want to know a little bit.
Give us a wee bit of that, Joanne. That'd be fab.
Yeah, so I'm a metaphysician from a long, long time ago. I was always interested, like in high school, I started to become interested in reincarnation and started reading books, which I thought was incredible because I didn't know. I was raised Catholic. And so this was all like booga booga. You could not explore any of it. So of course, because the nuns said, don't do it, I did it. I had to go out and get a Ouija board and do all these awful things you weren't supposed to just to try it out. It was like the forbidden fruit. So anyway, I read all about reincarnation, and it wasn't until my early 30s, actually, that I discovered a metaphysical bookstore and study center in my own neighborhood. And I had no idea that there were such places. They just didn't exist for me until about 1982. And so I started taking every class I possibly could. So I started studying channeling, mediumship, tarot, past life regression and past life therapy, all sorts of energy healing modalities. But where my interest has always gone and remains to this day is in more of the reincarnation and past life sector. Although now we're hearing there really is no such thing as past lives, because all time is right now. We've got all of these aspects within us. And so my healing work has developed over the last 20 years into assisting people, primarily women. Those are my main clientele. It's the female sector. And most women are interested in, first of all, getting more in touch with their spiritual side. A lot of them are, say they're married, but their children are grown and they're wondering what's next. So they're like, oh, I know that I have the spiritual stuff. Let's look into that. So I've done a lot of teaching in spirituality and giving meditation classes and things like that. But on the other side of it, in the healing side, I do the hands-on energy work, but I also have been working with the angels. Specifically, Archangel Michael has been a main teacher of mine and was part of my training back in 1995 or 96 to do this alignment work that had to do with using sound, but also doing an intuitive reading for people about where their stumbling blocks were, where they started, like what's the root of your difficulty in communicating with your boss? You know, what's that all about? And so we'd go into that energy. I guess I could say I'm going into their Akash to discover like where the seed of this issue is, whatever it is. And then in the session, I will give a story. The angels will give me a story about where it started. And then they would have me bring in the sound. And they said, and Michael showed me with his, he had a sword of light. It was just beautiful. And he said, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take this sword and you're literally going into people's cellular structure and memory and the energy of these old traumas or belief systems, behaviors, and you're going to be shifting their DNA, you know, deleting these old files. And so my work has really developed. It started out pretty good, but over these last 20 some years, it's gotten more powerful. And it's my passion. I've never strayed from wanting to go into those old stories. I'm fascinated by the stories that people come up with, you know, that have governed their lives. And so until we delete these old files and change the vibration around all of those stories, we can't really move into a life of more peace and joy and harmony. Yeah. So that's really it in a nutshell. Now, because of COVID, I stopped doing some hands-on work, but just in the last few weeks, it was suggested to me that I get back into doing the hands-on. And sure enough, I had a client for the other work and she mentioned wanting energy work. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I'm starting that up again. And she was thrilled. So I got my opportunity to do some hands-on work as well. So I really kind of cover a lot of territory with people, kind of whatever they need. I do get a lot of repeat business, or I have. And, you know, it's kind of fun. One day I might be getting guided that they could use a tarot reading instead of something else to help pinpoint something that they need to discover. And the tarot is like a guide for them. So that's my nutshell of kind of when I got started and how I got started. And it's just been, I don't want to do anything else. This is it. I did work in education for years because I had to pay the rent. So, you know, this has always been more of a side gig, but now I'm retired from the day job and I get to do this as much as I want. So I'm loving that.
Oh, and thank you so much for sharing, because sound, I think sound is really important for all of us here. So if we come to you, David, because you've talked, you've mentioned about sound energy, sort of the cellular memory sort of level. David, what are your experiences of working with sound and the levels that you've sort of got to?
Well, it's relatively new for me, let's say the past 2 or 3 years. Is my connection all right now, Sarah?
I'm hearing you. You're moving sort of a bit strange, but providing we can hear you, that's the most important thing.
Right. Okay. When I get a chance, I'll nip and double connect for the energy. But I think mine came out the last 2, 3 days because my work's been going on for 30, 35 years in various forms. And it was the past 3 years that I took, let's say, a period of unwellness. And Patricia know the amount of unwellness that I've had, and Sarah. Firstly, getting into the solfeggio frequencies and playing them for my own healing. And they were really resonating. Then I ended up going down to a shop called the House of Gold here in Scotland. And I just fell in love with their sound tools. So I ended up getting a drum and the 2 grails that are behind me as well. And I started playing with the music, and it was just absolutely for me. People, and I haven't had any training yet, but the responses you get from sound, and it's just, well, I was playing it by the river, and up come the fish at my feet, and then an otter came up and sat and just watched me, and it was just so powerful to understand, there is an amazing amount of shift of energy when you're working full time, Joe.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely brilliant, David. David, if you can strengthen your link, that would be better, because I think we got what you were saying. But the other thing, it might be the headphones. Suggestion, unplug those, but you're going to need to come out and come back in again. You were fine before we went live, so I don't know what's happening. But in the meantime, Patricia.
No.
You all right, David? Yes. Yes. I mean, I guess I came into a family of musicians. That's what I was born into, professionals. Mother was a cellist, and my father had his own band back in the day. So I had a cousin who was a beautiful concert pianist, and it was just the order of the day to be playing music. And of course, at a very early age, about 8, it was discovered I could sing reasonably well. And from then on, I was on a journey. And, alongside that, my spirituality started off when I was about 7 or 8, because Jesus really just made his presence felt very loudly in my life. And I wasn't brought up as a Catholic. I was brought up in a Protestant family, but not a very active one. So it wasn't really, discussed or anything like that. So, but he was there and influencing me, and I was in every choir and every competition. And then I just grew up and up and up through that. And I went off in various tangents at times, and then I was brought back in. And but all the time it was the voice, and it was a very high set voice. When I was younger, it was very pure. It was like a choir voice sound. And of course, when it came to doing sort of opera and choral work, things like that, I would get the parts where that was required. And now my voice is down in my boots now, because that's what happens when you get older. And that's fine. I don't even attempt to do it anymore. But, I've realized, because a bit like David, I feel as if I've been doing all this for ages. But, you do. They just kept saying to me, it's the voice. And, of course, apply that to everything, whether you're healing somebody and I came up through the Reiki, as did you, Sarah, of course. And that was how I learned that actually helped my left brain to sort of realize what it was I was doing in a right brain way. And then the divine feminine kept saying, come on, this is all about the divine feminine. You need to hit these really high notes. That will open women's, as I'm like Joanne, primarily working with women, and it opens the portals, if you like, their soul portals. It opens them up and they're able to receive more love. So I guess that's really what I've been doing all my life. I mean, it's been, when I look back now, I'm coming up to my 73rd birthday. And as I look back now, I think, crikey, I may have thought I was out on some kind of weird walk at times, but you know, you can really plot it. It's all made sense, and it's all had that major focus of the voice. And that was what brought Joanne and I together.
Yes.
This beautiful lady contacting me from across the world, and what a lovely friendship grew out of that, because she's a Celt, she's a sister, you know, it's the way it is. So, yeah, and what I love about all of this, I'm a real sponge for people like Greg Braden and these guys who get in about all this DNA stuff. And he was a physicist, I think, a nuclear physicist, Greg, wasn't he? And now, of course, he's into all this stuff up to here. So when you hear him talking about it and what's all the investigations he's done and how the DNA is changing and evolving with you, you know, with your thoughts, with your words, with your actions. And I mean, it's fascinating. That's what's really grabbing me just now. Because, of course, then we can take a hold of that. Then Sarah comes in and says to me, start chanting your name, Patricia. If you were Patsy, Pat, Patricia, bring all those aspects of yourself in. And that was lovely. There's all these lovely wee lessons have come in. And it's just kind of underpinning everything that I kind of had gathered over the years. So I just love sound. I think there is no limitation to what you can do when you harness the power of your voice with intention. And there is the rub. If you just do it willy-nilly, it ain't going to do anything. It's got to be really, as Joanne used the word, in alignment, but also intending. What is your intention? And when you bring in the power of God to be working through your every cell, you can raise everybody up. You raise yourself up. I don't do it every day, but I go through my chakras and just balance and align them and pet them all up and get rid of whatever's, if there's stuff gathering. And there's always stuff gathering. There's always stuff coming out to be addressed as well. You know, so how many times, and be honest now, how many times have you said, oh, that's me now, I've got all the bits now, I've dealt with it all now, you know, I'm not going to do any more therapy now, I'm perfect. And then before you know it, in a week's time, it's So we are constant works in progress, people. I hate to tell you. But I love that. You know, I mean, you've just got to love what you're doing. I think that's important, isn't it? And that way you help others. A lot of people think I'm off my trolley, but they've been thinking I've been off my trolley for a long time.
But is it not that it's people that work with energy, with sound, especially when we sort of use the power of our voice for that? Yeah. And for me, I know that I channel that sound. As I channel the Reiki, I am a channel for that sound. And it's occasionally, excuse me, then my vocal cords, because when they give the really high notes, it's just like, okay, I can do it for a bit, but I can't do it for long. But it is the sound, but it isn't, it's the whole of sound that surrounds us, isn't it? That affects our cells, that affects our bodies. You know, sort of sound can hurt and sound can heal.
Absolutely.
That's what we have to realize. And I know we've got sort of people, Karen sort of saying hello and Moira saying hello. So hi guys, it's lovely that you're with us. And if you've got any questions, any comments, please put them into the chat. But I've said this for so long, it is about sound. And I suppose the way I put it as sound, when we get those aches, pains, illnesses, ailments, stresses, strains, it's our vibration out of sync. Because sound is a vibration, we are a vibration.
Right.
And the right sound, the vibration of the right sound for each individual, because it's not going to be the same for everybody, can literally pull your vibration back into sync and level you back up. And so, yes, I know I've toned your name, Patricia, and I know I've actually done yours, Joanne, but I know I haven't done yours, have I, David?
No, you haven't, and that would be really interesting.
Well, Joanne,
to see what it was.
Yeah, because you are obviously the guest, but David's feedback, maybe from experience, his name being toned. Are you comfortable? Is David comfortable with that?
With what? I missed part of it. With me telling my experience?
Oh no! So that people get a sense of how important our name is with sound.
Oh yes.
Because I know the experience you had, and yes, I'm sure the both of you explaining or sharing your experience of it. But David, people being aware of what we mean by tone, by the sound, and the fact that you can use it with your name. So, yes. David, are you prepared to be the guinea pig?
Yeah, I'm up for it. Go for it.
Okay, fine. So please, my suggestion is, and everybody can do this because you may take something from the tones, but obviously this is going to be very much about David's name specifically for him. So yes, just see sort of what people pick up. But my suggestion is, you've got roots in your feet. Invite your roots down into Mother Earth, deep into Mother Earth, anchoring into Mother Earth. And Mother Earth is sending up her love and her protection up through your roots, into your feet, up into your legs, up into your whole body, and totally surrounding and protecting you. This is not about what you hear, it is about what you feel. How did that feel, David?
That was it. Open my eyes a moment, as you can see, because I just with the energy that I've got. But it came in through my temples, the energy, and finished at my waist. And it was like filling me. And afterwards, it was just like the energy was pressing down on my knees. I can realize now. Pressing down on my knees. And it was just like, I can't say it solidified me, but it put me place, makes sense. Kind of get that feeling of presence.
Excellent. So, Joanne, would you like to share your experience of me toning your name for you?
Oh, yes, it was absolutely angelic. when I had been telling Sara when we met several days ago, excuse me, that I never really have liked my voice all that much, and always felt I have another name. And so I actually did change my name for a while because I just was rejecting a lot of stuff about myself and my names. And so I've never felt really comfortable. And when Sara sang my name to me with her lovely accent, it just sounded so angelic. And I developed this new respect for my name. It lifted it up, and it was like, oh yeah, that really is beautiful. So it was lovely. It was very centering and affirming, I would say.
Patricia.
Yeah, it sounds lovely.
Yeah, that's what I felt. So it was so centered yourself, and I agree, it was angelic. I forgot to say that at the beginning. Just like a vibration of love, sitting there, it was angelic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I was going to add, it's a wee while since Sara did mine, but she's actually done it twice, I think, now. And I really found it quite profound because I have been called three things. Patsy when I was young, and that would be most frequently probably when I was getting into trouble for something. And then Pat when I was teenager, getting older, young woman and all that, and then latterly Patricia. And so I got all three. And I found the transition from one to the other quite eye-opening because there was distinct changes for me receiving it in the sound, in the texture. And I think I've been doing it a lot for myself, Sara, I have to say, because I tend to dance around a bit in the morning to Southeast Radio here. And they play 90s music, so it's really good for dancing to. And that's when I just put in my own sound, my own words, and I do my name. And it definitely helps me balance my body and be more flexible and loving myself more, which I've just had such low self-esteem most of my life, which usually people don't believe because I know I come over as being very confident, but that's not always the case. And so I really feel it helped me love myself more, those different aspects coming through the years. And I was wondering that, David, were you always called David, or were you Davy, or were there any other names in there?
Yeah, my birth name is David.
Yes.
My mum used to call me Dave. My brother and sister, when she was here, used to call me Dave. Yeah. So I've had that name, but I've also had a fight with the spirit as well, which I feel, which is really interesting. Which I won't go into, but I can see how different names will have different vibrations and really affect you in different ways.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so for me, it was certainly part of the rebirthing I feel I've been through ongoing. I just feel it's like every week or so there is a part of you or me rebirthing and becoming more and more whole. I really think that last couple of years has been very powerful in that respect. So thank you, Sara, because you definitely opened the door there for me with that one.
And sound is important. Sort of Joanne, you obviously you chose the topic for this evening. It's reboot your cells, upgrade your life with the power of sound. So is it sort of mostly voice and toning that you would sort of sort of say to people? Or would you say, because I know there are the tuning forks, there's drums, there's all sorts of things, the Hertz music, there's so much. Sort of,
Yes.
what would be your what are your thoughts? What do you find to be, I think it's what's powerful for us, isn't it? And people finding what's powerful for them.
Yes. So it's interesting, when I was giving you my little bio, I left out like the biggest piece, which is that I'm a sound healer, and that didn't just start. I have been a singer. I was classically trained back in the 70s. I sang in a lot of operettas, a lot of church choirs, community groups. So for me, voice and singing have been my love, my real love. In fact, I keep saying that when I leave this earth and go to the other side, we're told that we can participate in whatever we want to, whatever we love to do. And I said, I know exactly where I'm going. I'm going to find the big choir, because I'm heading for the choir. I'm going to sing. That's all I need to do. And so my voice is my instrument. Spirit has said many times, it's your voice. Bring your voice into it. So I do toning. I do have tuning forks, which I will use in my bodywork sessions primarily, to help give them a tune-up. But it is the singing and the transmission of specific frequencies that the higher realms will send through my vocal cords. And people always say that it's mystical. They'll look at me after I work with them and they'll say, I saw your mouth moving, but that was not you. That was not coming from you. And I think I told you this the other day. I had one woman dub me the human crystal bowl, because when I make these tones, I don't sing a song per se or have a chant, but it's pure tone. But you can hear all of the overtones that come. And yeah, bless my vocal cords, because somehow they were created to allow these incredible transmissions of this sound. And they're so effective in that, like, I've done groups online and in person. And one lady I was just thinking about came to one of my evening toning sessions, doing a Facebook Live. And she said she came in with her knee hurting. And at the end of it, that pain was gone. So we set the intention for healing on whatever level it needs to occur. And we can be very specific. We want it to occur on a particular level for sure, whether it's emotional or physical. And with that intention, as Patricia said, it's the intention that is so important. When you combine that, it's actually a magical formula. Intention plus frequency equals healing or manifestation. And so truly miraculous things can happen with this. And more people are understanding the value of it. When I first started toning, I think I was the only person around here doing it. I didn't know any other sound healers. And now there's a sound healer on every block practically. They're everywhere. So now I've been thinking, okay, what's my next gig? Because I have to get out in front again. I don't know what that is yet. But yeah, so for me, it's my voice as well.
Yeah. So David, sort of.
May I ask you? Sorry.
Yeah, carry on.
Sorry, may I ask you, Joanne, and anybody else, both yourselves, if you set the intention of yourself vibrating or sounding or frequencing at a certain solfeggio frequency, can you do that? Do you think that's a possibility? Everybody that I am today resonating at 432 hertz or 528 hertz, all that become that if you set the intention strong enough. Do you think you could do that, Joanne?
I would not doubt it. I really think that if you set the intention and call in your guides, the angels, whoever, why couldn't they send through that frequency?
Yeah.
I just trust that if I set the intention and make that divine connection, that it will happen. I don't have the technical knowledge or, I don't understand the technical aspects of these things, and I don't really need to. But I really believe that certainly they have the power to do that. So why not? We should test it out sometime.
Well, do you know, but I mean, I would absolutely
Yeah, I think it would be.
echo what Joanne is saying. That's exactly what I do, because I don't have all this left brain stuff, going on about. I'm aware of solfeggio and all of that. I'm aware of the keys that are, really do penetrate right into the DNA. But I, of mine own self, cannot just arrange that to happen. I really do. I just tune in and ask for them to download through me that which is required for that individual. Because I mean, I've worked with some guys like Tim Wheater and that crowd. They're all big time sound healers, beautiful sound masters, really. And that's what they were doing. Chris James from Australia, all these quite big names, you would say, in that kind of world. And so I did. I really went to absorb, to find out what are they all on about here. I also went with a friend to Georgia, to Tbilisi, and we were on a healing sound venture for over a week, working with what they call their bâtonnier-based songs. And that's where you go to the doctor and he doesn't give you a prescription. You come away with a song to sing that is going to heal you. And I mean, I've worked with these guys. We worked with cows, would you believe, in Orkney, up on the islands, and the cows would all come in around us. And there were about 20 of us, and they would surround us while we were singing. And it was intriguing because cows love what they call the open fifth in sound. It's a very raw, it gets right into your cellular structure. Just amazing. So, I mean, I come back to the power of intention, the power of your connection, just bringing that together and knowing that they have it. They have it absolutely right. I don't feel I have anything. I just act as the mouthpiece, that will be used for their highest good, may I say.
Oh, 100%. It's the intention, but it's all, for me, it's always offered for the individual to accept or reject as they choose. And whatever sound that comes through me, it's don't try playing with it, just trust it, go with it. If it changes mid-note, it doesn't matter. It's doing what is totally right for that individual. And so I said, I think like the others, sort of David, I know sort of Jill Matson, and I know she works very much with all the solfeggio and all those sounds. She's so into sound. She's done so many different talks with different people and everything that she's got out there. But she works very differently to, I'd say, the way that certainly three of us do. And there's an element of this, you're loving the sound, but there's an element of you sort of being at the beginning of the journey, whereas I've certainly probably been working with sound for the best part of 20 years now, sort of slowly building up and sort of learning and trusting. I think it's more trusting than learning. And so find if it's going to be voice you're going to be working with, or if it's going to be sort of the drums. I've actually booked to go on a drum birthing workshop. So I'm going to be making my own shamanic drum in May. So I'm really looking forward to that, because just sound is so important. And it touches us all in different ways and at different levels.
Absolutely. I was going to say, back in my 20s and 30s, and even later, now that I think about it, with various groups that came much later than that, I did a lot of choral singing and like the master choral work. So in fact, before we got on, I was just listening to a recording on YouTube, which is a gold mine for music lovers. I was listening to the Bach B minor Mass, and just listening to that. And I had sung that back in the 70s, the early 70s. And it took me back to this place of just total connection. And I even remember a lot of my part. And I think I was just reminding me that it's like if you can find a piece of music that you can hum along to or sing with, it's like giving you a musical massage for your spirit and for your whole body. And just bringing the intention that's going to balance you. Like you were saying, not all sounds work for each person, but everybody has some kind of music or sound. It could be the didgeridoo, it could be the drum, it could be cymbals. Who knows what it is? But we all have access to it. It's not something special that only we have access to. Everybody can find a way to incorporate more sound with whatever the beauty is in that for them, and really just smooth everything out. I've been listening to too much of true crime stories lately, and I thought, Joanne, you need to step away from that for a bit and pull out the Bach B minor mass. And it just completely, in fact, it's so powerful for me that it makes me cry. It just goes in so deeply, and it's my divine connection.
Yeah. Do you feel like that about Verdi's Requiem? Tell me.
I do. Yeah, all the requiems. I was also listening to Dürrfle, Mozart, Rutter, John Rutter, all of it. I just, that sacred, for me, it's sacred music just really it uplifts me. It takes me to heaven. It really, really does. And in these days, I think it's so important to find a bit of that for ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Totally agree.
So, David, do you have any specific music you listen to that speaks to you?
Well, it's interesting you say about the classical. I've always had the music behind me, like Patricia, music as well, the 80s and 90s. My go-to music is very much a classical. And when I was starting looking into it, a lot of the composers like Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, all the music resonates at 52 hertz. And it was just amazing. And that's my really go-to if I've had a stressful day or a stressful week. Bang, classical music on the radio. And it just kind of lifts. And like you say, everybody will have the type that lifts it. But for me, classical that really takes the weight off my shoulders, takes stress out of my system. And it doesn't need to be long. It 20 minutes, or it can be playing in the background, but it really does lift that energy.
It does.
Yeah, no, I have a CD that there's nothing on television at night, which there usually isn't worth watching for me. I've got a CD that I play. I think it's called Native American Dream, and so it's mostly instrumental, but there is a sort of section of it, and it is, sort of, and I suppose it's my play in the evening, so my body knows I'm getting ready for going to bed. But I also have a CD that I have playing as I go to sleep. So as I open the Reiki channel for my healing list and me, that music's playing, and that because I've got that at the side of my bed, that CD can play, because it is a CD. I'm very old fashioned. I haven't got any of these MP whatevers, and that CD, and it switches itself off, and I know I haven't got to wake up when it finishes. I also have a specific CD if I'm giving myself a Reiki session, because I know I've got to get up when that finishes. And so there can be sort of pieces of music that they can be for specific things or specific times of the day or whatever. If I if I've got a load of ironing to do or something, then I may put actually a CD on that's sort of what are they called? Mantras.
Oh yeah.
And sort of, so I can sing along with them. I think that's an energy boost. But I also love the 60s music and early 70s music. I'm sort of so into the 60s. Anything that you can then sing along to, and it can actually boost your energies. You know, and you talk about sort of does it touch our DNA? And it does.
It does.
But all sound touches us, whether it's traffic zooming past, an aeroplane going over, a song that actually you really cannot stand, you know, sort of, it all touches us. Yeah, or you get a whole load of seagulls overhead that they can make a racket, you know, sort of. But then you've got the lovely songs of some of the other little birds as they sort of and the wind in the trees, you know, sort of the sound of a brook or a river or a stream. What sounds support you? And I think that's the important thing, isn't it?
Very important. Yeah.
I like the sound of the water.
I think
on Loch Lomond, for example, just listening to the water lapping on the stones. You know, it wasn't tidal, obviously, so it's just gently in and out. And you could just fall asleep. It was just beautiful, just lovely. I miss that here. I miss Scotland, you know, here and I love Ireland, but I miss my homeland too, you know, and the vibrations from the heathers and the shrubs and the trees, you know, very particular. Whereas here, they talk about the Emerald Isle, and they're absolutely right, because there is a quality to the greenness here. It is definitely different, more vibrant.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I wonder about the sounds here. We're so quiet. It's out in the country. So when the boys or anyone comes to visit from Dublin, they sort of, it takes them a little while to adjust because they're used to the sound of the city. You might remember Neil Diamond wrote a song called "It's a Beautiful Noise," and he was talking about New York, you know. And so they're tuned into that. So when they come here, they're sort of going, "What's going on?" And they're not used to the sound of silence. But that's what I am used to. So I'm not good with loud, brash sounds. I'm not good at that at all now, because you do get used to silence, which is beautiful.
Absolutely. It's challenging for me at times because I live in an apartment building, and there are, I think, 11 units in this one building. And, you know, the walls are not that thick. And so I have somebody just on the other side of this wall right here. And she happens to be a little like 6 or 7-year-old girl who's very, very bright, but also very loud. And I feel like I've gotten too old. I'm an old fuddy-duddy or something, because when she starts screaming and hammering on the wall, it absolutely drives me insane. I can't take it. I feel like my peace is invaded. And so I have to find a way with sound to cover that up and bring in a more peaceful vibe, just as an antidote to that. And I think that's really important too, because you can't control all the sounds that are coming at you, but you can find an antidote.
Yes.
Deal with that. And that's really important. Especially now. It's a noisy world, except for Patricia's.
well,
you can all visit here. Open invitation to come.
Because we've sort of, I'd like
you
to share a little bit. David, I'm so sorry you're breaking up, but we are getting
no, that's all right.
But I think because we're at the time we're at, I think if we could all sort of share sort of some thoughts for folks, because it is about, you know, us. It is about ourselves. What can we do? And I think we've shared a fair amount about potentially what you could do with sound. But each and every one has got to find what works for them. So any suggestions, and from each of you, because we're all coming from, David very definitely from a different place, but we're all coming from a slightly different place and at different age groups and whatever, although I think we're all probably similar ages, but it's what can we share that sort of folks can take away from this that can potentially support them sort of with their own sort of a reboot of cells, their chakras, their aura, the whatever that supports them. So Joanne, as you are our guest, would you like to start?
Oh boy, put me on the hot seat. There's so many things really. But what I was just thinking of that's so simple and that anybody can do, humming is extremely powerful. And if you give yourself 3 minutes a day, if you can, it doesn't matter. Like people will say, but I can't carry a tune. Like this isn't about that. This is simply about pure sound. And when you set an intention, just close your eyes for a couple of minutes. You could think of a tune that you like, or just hum, or just and have the intention that this sound that you're making with your own voice, you don't have to have any equipment, is just massaging you on the inside. And I did that process with some other people online, and we did several minutes of just humming. And then we sat in silence. And oh my gosh, it was like we were totally lifted up. And it shifted our vibration so quickly. And anybody can do that. It's easy. And it doesn't matter if you think you can sing or you can't sing, because it's not about that. Just pure and just feel how your body just lets go when you do that. I've done it in the car too. If I'm feeling stressed in the car, you can do it to a degree. You don't want to shut your eyes. You want to be safe. But it can work. It kind of removes your focus from what's happening out there and brings it into you again. So you can kind of find yourself. I think that's one thing I can suggest.
Thank you. David.
I think for me, what I've found recently is I just put 32 hertz on, like a CD or a piece of music on the phone or something. You can stream it from the platforms, but I just put 432 hertz on when I go to sleep, and it really lifts and takes whatever from the day needs to be taken. And it's just like I can fall asleep like a log with it. It just works for me on that level. And it is so simple. You don't have to do any deep meditation or anything, but you just play the music and just go to sleep to it. And I've had a lot of restful sleep, a lot of restful nights, just putting that on for a few minutes. I drop off and it finishes when it finishes.
Thank you, Patricia.
Yes, well, I'm just remembering a lot of mirror work I used to do. I haven't done it for ages, but I used to do it with, if you had a crowd in a room or whatever, and I used to carry a great big briefcase that had about 10 mirrors in it, and I would give them all a mirror, and then you would look in the mirror, and I would say, right, do you all remember the song? I love you and don't you forget it. I love you and don't, right? Okay. So of course you don't need to worry about the words, because it's I love you and don't you forget it. And you're singing that into your mirror, into yourself. And it really worked wonders for them, because when you're looking, you're really connecting with your soul when you look into your eyes in the mirror. And you're bypassing a whole lot of stuff. You're singing beautiful words to yourself, and it raises your vibration. So they absolutely loved it. And I quite often do, I sing that song because we need to remember, we need to remind ourselves that we love ourselves. That's very, very important. So there you go. There's a wee tip for everybody. Get your number out. I love you. Don't you?
Who did that song, Patricia? Can you remember?
Oh gosh, it was a guy, wasn't it? Was
I
it?
think it was a male rather than a female. Yeah.
What? I honestly don't remember.
I'm sure we could look it up easily, but I'm not going to do that now.
Dean Martin, somebody like that. Maybe
I don't know.
like that vintage, I think.
Oh yes, it's pretty old one. It's pretty old one.
Yeah.
And I think the suggestion that I would make actually sort of we've sort of touched on already, and that's about your name.
Mm.
And if you're not confident to start with, to use the toning, because I don't class it as singing, it's about the tone. And if you're not confident with doing that to start with, just speak your name, because that's still sound. But if you can speak your name from your heart, so you're speaking it gently, you're not asking yourself for anything, you're not telling yourself off, because I think so many of us with our name, the things we remember are sadly the negative things. So it's when we're being, oh, what are you doing now? And when I got sort of told off, it was the full Sara Jane. My sisters were Catherine, Mary, and Jacqueline Ann, but they were Katie and Jackie. You couldn't do much with Sarah or with Jane because you can't really shorten them. But sort of it's one of those things. But I know the reason I understand the importance of name is because I changed my name from Jane to Sarah, in spite of the fact it was my whole name. I was always my middle name. So when I tone my name for myself, I do a mix of the two, Sara Jane and Jane Sarah. So I'm honoring the whole of me. So if you've had a change of name, sort of whatever that might be, use every aspect of that. And if, as I said, if you can't find the courage to start with toning, start with speaking and just repeating your name over. But you're not asking anything of yourself. That's the important thing. It's about acknowledging yourself. And for all of us, it's by getting back to that perfect place of where, for me, where we were born perfect, that perfect being that we are. And it's just acknowledging and helping us to get back to that. And we can affect ourselves. We really can. And in fact, we are the only ones who can truly affect ourselves. We just give other people permission, but we just don't register we're doing that when other people affect us, because we don't have to let other people affect us. So that would be sort of the thought I would sort of offer. Work with them and work with laughter, guys. Absolutely work with laughter.
Yes.
Because it is so, so important. And I think, was it somebody said, and it's so true, if you find your mind going off and going round and round in circles, and especially if they're negative thoughts, start laughing. Because your mind can't keep going in those negative spirals.
That's
if
right.
You start laughing. That stuff just seems to vanish. So it's a sound that can really support.
Mm-hmm.
So sort of, and thank you to everybody that's been watching live. Thank you so much to each and every one of you.
Yes,
Joanne, for joining us and
thank you,
and choosing the topic. Sort of because there's been lots of stuff shared here tonight. Obviously, to my co-hosts Patricia and to David, thank you so much.
May I ask one thing, Sarah?
Yes.
I had promised in my little blurb that I would do a little demo.
Oh, right. Okay.
I wondered if we could end it with doing just, 30 seconds of a centering, and then I'll bring in a tone for balance and harmony for everybody.
Absolutely.
Great. You ready right now?
Yep. Let's go.
So everybody, just feet on the floor, sending down your roots through your feet, down and down into the earth. And just imagine that in the center of Mother Earth is this beautiful, large, ruby red crystal. And you're going to direct your roots to go and wrap around that crystal, just giving you the grounding that you need and the support and nurturing of Mother Earth while we do this. So the purpose and the intention of the sounding that I'm going to bring through is for balance, peace, and harmony for everyone listening now and later. And I always ask first to be connected with divinity. And I also invite in my angels of sound, light, and color to bring the perfect frequencies through for everyone in this time. You might want to take a deep breath and just settle in and allow these tones to serve you, however is for your highest good. So consider this a blessing from on high for your greatest good, with many blessings for your well-being and your peace, harmony, and your joy. And so it is.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I hope it came through.
Oh, it did. I'll tell you what came through. The harmonies came through. The whole scale came through. It was lovely.
Oh, good.
Clouds and fruits. Yeah.
Thank you. And Moira says thank you. That was very interesting. So thank you, folks. Next week, changing healthcare for changing times, with guest Mary Bolingbroke. And then the following week, back to today's conversation, being joined by Tommy Stoffel and Brian Bernard. And we're going to be talking about the presence without chatter. Very much about the monkey mind and the chatter relaxer. So sort of, I hope that you will join us for those. In the meantime, folks, thank you to each and every one of you here. And thank you to everybody who watches tonight and in the future. Thank you so much. Take care. Be safe. Stay well. Love, peace, and light to you all. Namaste.
Thank you, Sarah.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Namaste.
Lots of love to everybody.